such as?
Such as the Intifada, such as terrorists.
So if we had a homeland, the Intifada would no longer exist. The Intifada is a struggle for a homeland for the Palestinian people so they can have human rights that should be the rights of all people everywhere.
Who's to say we won't want more homeland?
Who's to say Israel won't want more homeland? Who's to say they would take it from us? Why is it always Israel's security? Why can't you once think of the Palestinian security? Why can we not have security? Are we less of a people as the Israelis are? Yes, that we are sorry for what Hitler did. We are sorry for all the persecution, but why must we suffer? Why must our homeland be taken away? Why must we get a fifth of what we had before? Why can we not have the two small sections for 2 million plus Palestinians? We are sorry that you have Jews coming in. That is not our problem. We ask for a homeland for the 2 million people that are out there who don't have a homeland. And you cannot identify them as Jordanians or as Syrians or as something else. They are Palestinians. We are Arabs, but we are Palestinian people.
Palestinians are fighting for freedom, just like the Contras.
I'd like to make a statement about a greater Palestinian state. I also know that Yitzhak Shamir himself is still believes in a greater Israel, so how do we know that they will not also work to attack us?
First of all, we would be giving up in this situation. How would we be able to be sure that you would stop once you got the occupied territories back? All of the majority of the Jewish population lives on the coast, and if we gave back and returned the West Bank to your people, our nation would be hanging on by a thread. It would be completely cut in half by enemies. We are surrounded by Arab people. We're surrounded by hatred. And we can't afford to do that.
We are surrounded by hatred because you have taken away our homeland. We are Arabs. We are Arabs also, besides Palestinians. That is why they hate you. It's not because you are Jews. You have to understand that we don't hate you because you are Jews. That is not why.
Part of the Muslim religion is being respectful and appreciative of all religions. It's not Judaism that we object to. It's the Zionist movement which has taken away the Palestinian homeland.
Which is part of the Arab nation.
Excuse me. Then why have you say you want peace and you want your territory back and you'll stop with that land, but in broadcast to the other Arab nations, never in English, always in Arabic, you have said that the main intention is to push Israel off of the map into the sea. That has been recent broadcasts that you have done to the other Arab nations.
Give us a date, please.
But then if you fear that, then there should be security put up along the borders, or there should be a negotiated peace among the Israelis and the Palestinians.
Yes,
that's what we're trying
in 1949 in Greece there was a pact made between Jordan and Syria and Israel and Egypt also, and they promised that there wouldn't be aggression, and they've broken that. We were promised security and we didn't get it. We kept being invaded. How can we trust the Arabs?
Syria.
You say this treaty was made in 1949. Wasn't it Israel that started the Six-Day War of 1967? And Israel that attacked the Sinai Peninsula in 1956?
We responded to your closing the Strait of Tiran, and it was closed to all of our shipping and all of our trade.
Was that not, but were you the first aggressor? Did you not attack?
We were the first aggressors after...
So isn't it Israel that broke the pact? Militarily. Wasn't that Israel breaking the pact first before any other Arabs?
You cut off our trade routes. That's like cutting off a lifeline.
Well, I'm not talking about, that was Egypt. How about the 1967
Six-Day War was a response to military buildups that could have resulted in the destruction of Israel.
Do you have any proof that there was going to be?
Yes.
That Arabs were going to attack? Any direct proof? So was it not Israel that broke the pact first?
You build up your military
justify your actions.
Weekend game, just build up your military in a certain area?
Yeah. We used to be half a mile away from Syria and Jordanian missile fire, gunfire, and now that we have buffer states, we're a lot farther away from that threat. But how are we going to guarantee that if we give the land back, if we return it, that we aren't going to be just close again and we're going to have to respond to things?
It's not Palestine we're afraid of. It's the rest of the Arab world.
It's the whole Arab world.
Syria has a right to respond. No response. United States.
Again, I would ask we stop rehashing past events and work on a peaceful solution.
Go ahead, Jordan.
Yes, well, I understand the need for a security zone or a buffer zone. However, how do you justify the settlement of these territories? It only closes the gap, which is supposed to be there for protection.
We don't justify them. It's not us as a part of the justifying.
So why isn't it stopped until a solution is reached with a fair chance given to the Palestinians?
We're not in power.
I'm talking to the Israeli
The
government.
question is addressed to the Likud. You have a response.
You haven't stopped, so we are just responding in defense.
I have not stopped what?
Terrorism. The terrorism is not stopped, and so we have to respond in defense.
We don't know where it's coming from, but it's coming from all the Arab nations in different places.
So you say that in response to terrorism, you're settling the West Bank and Gaza Strip.
Now, if
That makes
If
a lot
the
of sense.
terrorism and the Intifada are given a complete halt and all the Arab nations recognize us as a nation, then we can have individual peace talks with all the leaders concerned.
So what happens to the settlements then?
Well, I'd like to make a proposal.
Yes, go ahead.
That the Palestinians elect a representative without PLO affiliation to have peace talks with us. And perhaps they can be represented in our Knesset, but they have to elect someone to have peace talks with us.
Go
There are
ahead.
no Palestinians without PLO affiliation except me.
There already are Palestinian representatives in the Israeli government, and it hasn't done anything yet. The Palestinian people are still mistreated.
But could we have them in a special committee to discuss this, to discuss the conflict?
Okay. We're going to adjourn for a few moments. We will come back. We return from our adjournment, our brief adjournment. We are now continuing the Arab-Israeli Peace Conference on the Middle East. We have been hearing a lot from both radical sides of the Arab faction and the pro-Israeli faction. We now continue with open debate. I believe the Palestinians were talking, but there are other parties who'd like to speak. Go ahead. Iran.
Israel, you stated that you're giving up land, but you're only giving up the land that you took in the past.
After being attacked and how wars have been won. Past countries have taken land after they have won it during wars. We as a party are willing to give that land back.
But you're saying you're giving it up. It's not rightfully yours.
That's a matter of opinion.
So you feel that just because you have fought for the land, you've taken it away and fought for it, that is now yours?
If you had beaten us in a war, would you have given it back to us if we had asked for it?
Well, it was ours to begin with.
How can you say that? It was given to us by the United Nations.
And you didn't agree with the original proposal?
But what right to the United Nations have to give it to you?
It is our country. Why? What if the United Nations ordered you to give us back all of Israel? Would you give it back? Would you want to do that?
Of course we wouldn't, but do you think we'd have a choice?
Well, obviously we didn't.
Syria.
You said that you justified your occupation and not wanting to give those occupied territories back by saying you fought and won wars for them. So then why did you support the coalition against Iraq? Did not Iraq fight the Kuwaitis and win Kuwait over? How is that different?
He was attacking, we were attacked and defended.
That you got the West Bank and Gaza Strip when you attacked the Arab countries in 1967.
1967 was not an attack, it was a defense.
It was an attack.
It was an attack against. It was an attack against Syria, Jordan, and Egypt.
There is a defend themselves against clear aggression from you, Egypt,
We were
and,
cut off economically.
and Jordan.
PLO?
Okay, how do you justify 1948 Jewish guerrillas massacred hundreds of Arabs in the village of Deir Yassin? How do you justify October 1st, 1985, 8 Israeli jets bombed PLO headquarters in Tunis, 38 killed, 100 injured? How do you justify in 1980 the Jewish underground planted bombs in cars and 2 mayors in the West Bank were killed? How do you justify in 1983 disguised Jewish terrorists entered Islamic College of Hebron campus and opened fire and threw hand grenades? How do you justify in 1960 Israeli hijacked Lebanese plane? How do you justify in 1963 Muslim sections of towns were bulldozed by Israeli people forced to flee in their homes? How do you justify Israeli people moving into the little land that you've given us in the West Bank and taking it over and not giving us any place to live, not even under occupation?
Not even the slums and the refugee camps.
The terrorist actions they're talking about were not done by who we represent now.
But you say, okay, that we cannot control all our fractions. We have no country, we have no police, we have no army, we have nothing. And you have an army backed by the largest superpower in the world.
We need it.
And you cannot control your people?
And you condemn us for not being able to control terrorist
Were all
acts?
those military attacks?
They were terrorist attacks, just as they are terrorist attacks upon you.
Again, these were isolated events in the
Well,
past.
our
which
events are isolated
They are
The
events.
United States
continuous,
has the floor.
continuous events, and they're also in the past. We do not need to concentrate on past isolated events, and we need to worry about the present and the future.
How can we not focus on isolated events? That's what they're doing. Why is it wrong
You're
for
a
us to isolate things?
continuous stream
Well, so is
of
theirs.
aggressive activity.
If we keep looking into the past, how can we get working on the future?
You keep saying we shouldn't keep looking in the past, that we should stay in the present, but it's all your fault that this whole mess is like this. If it weren't for you, this would have been resolved millions of years ago.
Labor Party has the floor.
I'd like to make a proposal that the Gaza Strip and West Bank will be given back to Palestinians with a UN buffer state between Israel and the West Bank, 5 miles thick, demilitarized zone. completely.
It leaves you 2 miles.
Can you repeat your proposal?
That Palestinians be given back complete control, Gaza Strip as it is, in the West Bank, with a 5 mile thick UN-backed demilitarized zone where anybody could live. And a peace treaty that says that there will be no more aggressions against Israel.
Yeah, I would also like that, to add to that an amendment, that there would be some sort of
You can
connection
make a
between the
separate
West Bank.
proposal, you cannot add to his.
The aggressions against Israel won't stop until we have the whole territory.
Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to exclude the Abu Nidal party from this resolution because we're trying to make peace here and this is just total aggression.
Let me explicate the process by which a member can be ousted from this conference. If a motion is brought up to exclude one member, the entire conference must vote. If the vote is unanimous, that member can be excluded. They will have no right of speech or right to vote. We will now partake in a
I
vote.
speak for the Arabs. If you call yourself an Arab, you will not vote to exclude me.
Please, okay. We now hold a vote. This vote is to exclude the Abu Nidal radical factions from this conference. All in favor of an exclusion?
We abstain.
And all opposed? The member is not counted. Abu Nidal is officially ousted from this. We now resume with our third and final day of the International Peace Conference on the Arab-Israeli conflict. I apologize to our television audience for the interruption in the debate coverage. However, due to an airtime limitation, we have to cut a portion of the conference. Our viewers have missed some of the lively debate on the Israeli settlements in the occupied territories, on the future status of a possible Palestinian homeland on the West Bank and Gaza Strip, the future status of East Jerusalem, and of the role of the PLO in any future negotiations with Israel. We do have a number of proposals made by our delegates which will be voted on after our closing statements today. First, I'd like to ask for any new proposals or linkage or combination of proposals to make packages. Remember that the proposals need to be voted with a consensus. We're not here to force an agreement on any party, but rather to make peace. So first, we're going to go to new proposals and combinations of proposals to make packages. The existing proposals are listed here. I'll briefly read them, and then we'll go on from there. Number one is Israel leaves all of Palestine. Number two is to create a Palestinian state, a democratic Palestinian state on the West Bank and Gaza Strip with the following amendments, which will be voted on with or without the original proposal. A is including a 5-mile wide United Nations buffer zone. B is a highway between the West Bank and Gaza Strip. C being the issue of East Jerusalem. I'll get back to that. D is security agreement written up afterward between Israel and Palestine. East Jerusalem is the separate issue. There are 4 amendments that go along with that. They are for it to be part of a Palestinian state, to be part of an Israeli state, to be neutral, UN administered a religious city, and the 4th one is to be decided on at a later conference. That is to do the original proposals in this meeting, and Israel will be a separate issue. Resolution number 3, Israel gives Golan Heights back to Syria. Number 4, all states or groups at the conference will recognize Israel's right to exist and to live within secure borders and pledge to end all hostilities against Israel. And the 5th proposal is that negotiations will begin between Israel and the Palestinian representatives to address the future of the West Bank and Gaza Strip, with Palestinian representatives approved by Israel that have no PLO affiliation. We now move on to new proposals and combining of proposals. We'll start here on my left with Syria.
I would like to combine proposals 3 and 4.
These are Golan Heights to Syria and states recognizing Israel's right to exist.
Yes.
U.S.
I would like to propose that we combine part D of proposal 2 with proposal 4, because I feel that true security will only come when all nations recognize Israel's right to exist.
Okay. We have time for further proposals. Egypt?
To protect my participation in the Camp David Accords, I'd like to make a proposal that states that the Palestinians on the Israeli-occupied West Bank and in the Gaza Strip would receive self-rule through an elected council, and Israel's military government would be removed. I don't know if that would be better as a separate proposal or combined. I don't know if anybody has any suggestions.
Will, are there any suggestions for that one? Okay, this will be decided on. There'll be a time for that.
Can I comment on this proposal?
Sure.
I think that with the Palestinians' own state, that an end to Israeli military occupation and self-governance would probably be a given with that. So I'm not sure if this is needed.
Okay, all the specifics will be worked out. Iran?
I'd like to propose that any future conferences should be held without the presence of the USSR, France, Great Britain, and the United States. They have no part here in the Middle East. They are only interfering with us, and they have caused much conflict in the past.
Okay, thank you, Aaron. We have further proposals? Combinations? PLO. Israel's Likud Party?
We'd like to have 3 and 4 as separate proposals.
Well, as they stand now, they're separate. The combination would be a separate proposal.
Okay.
So that's a given. We have time.
So we would like to propose that all the Jewish settlements in the West Bank and the Gaza relocate, and that the planned 13,000 settlements that will be built in the next 2 years not be built.
Repeat
So
it.
to stop all building of new Jewish settlements and relocate the Jewish settlements that are in the occupied territories right now.
This is the last opportunity for more proposals to be brought up. Once we're finished, we'll be voting. So if there's any last proposals or combinations to be made, this is the time.
I have a question about, I know East Jerusalem is a separate issue, but who would be at the meeting with the Israelis deciding if there was a separate meeting deciding that, or would we have to decide that when we discuss this proposal?
You're speaking about number 5A here?
Yes.
This will need to be decided. It's not clear yet.
No, I mean the East Jerusalem number 4 to be decided at a later conference.
That also has more to be worked out. This is just
Okay.
this is just to point out that this conference is really voting on general principles, and this
Okay.
would bring the specifics as East Jerusalem to a different meeting.
Okay.
Okay, with that, we have finished our new proposals and combinations. We will take a short pause, a short break, to give the delegates here time to prepare closing statements and to firm up the combinations. With that, we will adjourn. Okay, we continue now with the voting and closing statements. Sherry?
Secretary General, I'd like to make a motion to oust the Likud Party, seeing as they probably will hinder the peacemaking process.
Okay, I think it is understood. This process is understood. We need a consensus vote. Obviously, without the ousted party, we'll now have a vote. All in favor of the ousting of the Likud Party of Israel? PLO, Jordan, Syria, Iraq, Kuwait. That's all of the in favors. All opposed? Since there is not a unanimous vote, Israel's Likud Party stays. We begin with closing statements now. PLO, you go ahead.
Thank you. Your most honorable delegates, we would like to end by saying that the Palestinians need and deserve to have their homeland returned. We agree that Israel has a right to exist, but we also strongly believe that we, the Palestinian people, have the right of existence and self-determination in our own homeland. We feel that the Palestinians need to have their human rights returned and to have their anthem, oath of allegiance, and flag recognized by the world.
We urge the creation of a Palestinian state in the West Bank and Gaza Strip as in Amendment number 2. We also agree to Amendments 3 and 4, and As for amendment number 5, we believe that negotiations between Israel and Palestinians alone would not get anywhere because they're two very opposite points of view, and that the PLO is the elected representative of the Palestinian people, as has been shown in many polls, and that it is not fair to take that option away from the Palestinian people. Thank you.
Jordan?
I demand to make a closing statement.
Security, please take this member out. We have the radical Palestinian factions removed. Jordan, opening statement. Closing statement.
First, I'd like to say I'm pleased with the results so far, and I hope that we may agree on the acceptance of a independent Palestinian state, and I think with that cleared up, that it would be possible that all Arab nations could accept the borders and the right of Israel to exist. I have nothing further to say.
Thank you, Jordan.
I would just like to say that Syria is willing to recognize Israel's right to exist as a free, independent nation in the region if and only if it agrees to proposals 2, 3, 2, and the combination of 3 and 4. Syria doesn't really, none of the other proposals really affect us, so we have no vote on that.
Thank you, Syria. Iran's closing statement.
I'm thankful for this conference, and I strongly hope that the Palestinians get their long-awaited home. And I also hope we have more conferences like this, but without the countries over there. Thank you.
Thank you, Iran. Saudi Arabia, closing statement.
I'm happy that we could all meet in peace here, and I think that Saudi Arabia is going to recognize Israel's right to exist if they do vote in a Palestinian homeland, and Saudi Arabia will fully support the Palestinians, and will recognize Israel's right to exist.
Thank you. Egypt.
Thank you, Secretary General. My position in this conference was one of support for my Palestinian brothers and sisters in their search for an Arab homeland, and also of support for Israel and its right to exist in security needs. I think this conference has been a good one. Many points of view were seen and many proposals were made, and I think that if we vote right, that most countries here can be satisfied with the results. Thank you.
Thank you. Kuwait.
Kuwait is willing to recognize Israel's right to exist if they agree to the creation of a Palestinian homeland in the West Bank and Gaza Strip, and Jerusalem as an international city. We also believe that the Middle East should be a nuclear-free zone, and are willing to sign an agreement not to develop or in any other way come into possession of nuclear weapons if Israel gets rid of theirs. We will be willing to sign a security agreement with Israel if they sign one with the Palestinians.
Thank you, Kuwait. Next we have the USSR. Closing statement, please.
I'm happy that despite our differences, we were able to come up with some valuable proposals. I hope that we will realize that a vote for the status quo is a vote for continued violence with little hope of ever coming to a solution. Please remember how difficult it was to finally hold this conference, and that now is the time to compromise and end the regional conflicts permanently by allowing both the Palestinians and the Israelis to exist each in their own homeland. Thank you.
Thank you, USSR. France, closing statement, please.
Thank you. I didn't get a chance to say this earlier, so I'll say it now. I think that proposal number 1 is ridiculous. The point of this conference is to find a peaceful resolution of the conflict. Abu Nidal is not invited to this conference, and proposal number 1 proves why. The PLO is the only representative of Palestine. proposal number 1 should not be counted because, in addition to all I have just mentioned, Abu Nidal has been silenced by a majority vote. I repeat, the point of this conference is to find a peaceful resolution to the conflict. With the conference coming to an end soon, we must not waste time on absurd proposals such as number 1. I hope we find a peaceful solution. Thank you.
Great Britain.
Thanks. Overall, I feel this conference has gone well. Of course, there was a lot of disagreement concerning the future of the Arab-Israeli conflict and how it will be resolved, but this is to be expected when greatly opposing forces try to come upon agreement. I represent a country outside of the Middle East region who has had perhaps the longest history in this region. I know histories are important. However, if we spend as much time on the future of this problem as we have been on the history, we can create a lasting agreement for tomorrow. I do think there is a base of understanding between Israel, the PLO, and the Arab nations, which will allow the creation of a peace agreement. Coming from the standpoint of a country that has supported both the Arabs and Israelis, I urge delegates here to seriously consider voting for the following proposals. Number 2, number 4, number 5. I would also be in favor of a proposal stating that East Jerusalem be controlled by a UN peacekeeping force. These are the proposals I'm considering voting for. Remember, a durable peace has to be established in the Middle East. Thank you.
Thank you, Great Britain. United States.
Mr.
Closing
Secretary, honorable delegates, though I am not supportive of this conference and I feel that there were many unnecessary obstacles, but I am hopeful that we reach a solution that is satisfactory to all. I hope that the Arab countries will recognize Israel's right to exist as an independent country, secure from attack by its Arab neighbors. We feel that because of our past and present influence in the Middle East, we hope that all countries will respect our opinions and proposals. We support the 2nd, the 4th, and the 5th amendments, as well as the East Jerusalem Conference. Thank you.
Thank you, United States. Israel's Labor Party.
Thank you. Unless Proposal 2 with amendments A, B, and D and Proposal 4 are voted in, we will have made very little progress in the process of peacemaking here, and we feel this conference was a waste of time. We think we would have come to a conclusion on these issues more quickly had Israel met with each of the Arab nations, including Palestine, separately. But as there is no way to turn back the clock and pretend this conference never happened, we would like to make the best of it. We think that the East Jerusalem issue should be dealt with outside of this conference with Palestinians and a UN moderator. Thank you.
Good.
We feel that, as we had expected, nothing has been accomplished in this conference. We still believe that we should hold individual conferences with the Arab leaders involved and are willing to meet with a Palestinian representative other than someone affiliated with the PLO. We also favor proposal number 4, and we would like to discuss the issue of Jerusalem at a later conference. Thank you.
Thank you. I will end the closing statements with one from myself and from my organization. I'm just glad to say that this conference has been successful. We have brought two great opposing sides into the same conference to debate a very difficult problem, and if we haven't made a resolution at the end, we certainly have taken a big stride for peace in this region. I would also like to point out that you should keep in mind that each side must give up a little, that while voting, that the ideal situation cannot always be met in a situation like this, and that in order to make peace, certain things need to be given up. With that, we will begin our voting of these several proposals. We will go through the proposals one by one and vote on them. If there's one with specific amendments, we will vote on those first. Number 1, Israel leaves all of Palestine. This being an unusual one, I think I'm going to take a vote for opposed first. All opposed, raise your hand. It is clear so far that this is not unanimous. We will move on to number 2. Create a Palestinian state, democratically run on the West Bank and Gaza Strip. There are several amendments affiliated with this. We'll vote on letter A first. This is to include a 5-mile wide UN buffer zone. All in favor? PLO, Jordan, Syria, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Kuwait, USSR, and France, Great Britain, United States, Labor. Thank you. All opposed? Likud. This does not pass. Amendment B. A highway between the West Bank and Gaza, UN patrolled. All in favor? All opposed? Likud again. This does not pass. Letter D. Includes Israel, a security agreement with Israel with this proposal. All in favor? Everyone but Likud, all opposed? Likud is opposed. This does not pass either. East Jerusalem. We have several amendments going along with East Jerusalem. The first being East Jerusalem as a Palestinian state. All in favor? The PLO, Saudi Arabia, Egypt. All opposed? United States, France, Great Britain, Labor and Likud, all abstain. We have the rest here. This does not pass. It's not a consensus. Number 2, East Jerusalem as part of Israel. All opposed? All abstain. This does not pass. I'm sorry I didn't call for a all in favor vote, but this does not pass because there has been opposition. Number 3, East Jerusalem as a neutral, United Nations administered city. All in favor? PLO, Jordan, Syria, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, and Kuwait. All opposed? Labor and Likud. This does not pass. Number 4, this issue to be decided at a later conference. All in favor? Egypt, France, Great Britain, United States, Labor, and Likud.
Are we actually going to vote on proposal number 2?
Yes, we are. We have to vote on all the amendments first. All opposed? All abstain? PLO, Jordan, Syria, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Kuwait, and USSR. This does pass. There has not been any opposition. We now vote on resolution number 2 as a whole. All in favor of creating a Palestinian state, democratic state, on the West Bank and Gaza Strip, with East Jerusalem to be decided at a later conference? All in favor of this proposal? PLO, Jordan, Syria, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Egypt, Kuwait, USSR, France, and Great Britain. All opposed? United States, Labor, and Likud. All abstain. Proposal number 2 does not pass. Number 3, Israel gives back Golan Heights to Syria. There are no amendments. We vote for the proposal right away. All in favor of this proposal? PLO, Syria, Iran, Egypt, and Kuwait. All opposed? Labor and Likud. We don't need to call for abstentions here. Number 4. All states and groups at this conference recognize Israel's right to exist and to live within secure borders and pledge to end all hostilities against Israel. Any clarifications? Good. There are no amendments. We will vote for the proposal. All in favor? Egypt, France, Great Britain, United States, Labor, and Likud. All opposed? Syria, Saudi Arabia. This does not pass. Number 5, negotiations between Israel and Palestinian representatives to address the future of the West Bank and Gaza Strip with Palestinian representatives approved by Israel with no PLO affiliations. All in favor? This is true, I'm sorry. We'll vote for the amendment first. All in favor of Palestinian reps with no PLO affiliations. Great Britain, United States, and the Likud Party. All opposed? We have opposition on the Arab side and in France. This does not pass. Number 5 as a whole, without any amendments, negotiations to begin between Israel and Palestinian representatives to address the future of the West Bank and Gaza Strip, as in this meeting. All in favor? PLO, Jordan, Iran, Saudi Arabia, Syria, Kuwait, USSR, France, Great Britain, and the Labour Party. All opposed? Israel. We don't need to call for abstentions here. We move on to the combinations and new proposals. Numbers 3 and 4 combined, which are the Golan Heights given back to Syria, and all states recognizing Israel's right to exist. All in favor? All opposed? This does not pass. Letter D of number 2 with number 4. Letter D is a security agreement which includes Israel. With number 4, that all states recognize Israel's right to exist. All in favor?
Excuse me. D did not pass.
This is different proposal. This is the combination. This is clear.
Could we add A and B along with that?
No.
It's too late in the process, I'm sorry. All in favor of this?
I was wondering if this gets passed, does that mean that proposal 2 gets passed with amendment D?
No, proposal 2 did not pass. It's strictly that security agreements. Maybe this is not a good idea. This is, as USSR and US pointed out. But I think I'm going to scratch this one, since, as US pointed out, D did not pass, and number 2 did not pass. Next proposal is that the the USSR, France, and Great Britain are not present in any future conference. All opposed? There is opposition, evidently. This does not pass. Last on our agenda, Jewish settlements are stopped in the occupied territories, and new ones are not built, that is, and existing settlements are removed from occupied territories. All opposed? Israel's Likud party. None of our proposals at this conference have passed. This has definitely been worth a lot of effort, but as we can see, it has been a very difficult problem to resolve. I will just end this conference by reintroducing the students who played each role here. The PLO was played by Carla Vargas and Ludi Suter-Klein. Nora Birch played the radical Palestinian factions. David Miller played Jordan. Tarek Di Domenico, Syria. Kareem Beers, Iran. Avi Smith, Saudi Arabia. Thea Stark, Egypt. Kuwait was Lisa Porch. USSR, Paul Platt. France, Nick Goldsmith. Great Britain, Matt Yarrow. United States, Matt McLaren and Carl Gartline. Israel, Labour Party, Lisa Davidson and Jacob Todd. And Israel's Likud party was played by Maggie Lehman and Nora Schmidt. Thank you for watching this ACS simulation of an international peace conference on the Arab-Israeli conflict. This is the last session of this conference. We are now finished.